we are going to get started right away. Victoria Radford. Now, here's the interesting thing. I had been using Victoria's products for years. Has anyone used Victoria's products? Yeah. What's your favorite one, Hollis?
I like the serum.
The serum. Oh, that serum. That serum is really good. I started with the under eye masks that are amazing. And that serum is really good. Who else uses Victoria's products? Kaylee, what's your favorite?
Probably clean.
Clean. What's clean?
It's her face wash.
The face wash. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're just going to bring her up so we can talk all about it. She is a celebrity makeup artist, skin expert, and founder of Radford Beauty. And we are going to get all up in her business today. Please welcome Victoria Radford.
Peak performance and mindset coach Hina and welcome back.
I make it part of my self-image, and the more I rest, the more I make.
Hina is an extraordinary woman. She has a very extraordinary understanding of how the mind functions.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You'll tell me, Kelly, if I'm okay, if we're okay here. We sound good? Okay. So I was thinking about this, Victoria, and I was like, because I use your product, and I was looking at the product where I purchase it is at Wax On.
Yes.
Which, how many of you know Wax On and know Lexi? Yes, we love. So at Wax On, you can purchase Victoria's products. And as I got to know a little bit about Victoria in my research, I was looking at the shelf with all of your products, and I thought, Victoria, you're living your childhood dream.
That was never a question.
This was your dream.
Yes.
This was your dream. At 12 years old, you wanted to have product.
Yes.
And you've got it now. So what is that like? Do you ever have to pinch yourself and say, I'm actually living my childhood dream? Because many people are not.
I think that it really comes into focus for me when things are actually very challenging. And I think back to that 12-year-old girl, and I think that she would just tell me, Victoria, you're living your absolute dream. It's an honor to be stressed out by what you're doing. And that's really when it hits me. I think that it was never a question. 12-year-old me knew that this was going to be my life. I saw it. I visualized it. I believed that anything I visualized, anything that I could conceive, I could achieve. And that was never a question. But sometimes when things are really tough, I remind myself that it's challenging and it's tough, and what an honor.
So did your parents instill that belief in you? Because that is pretty wild at 12 years old to actually know that you're able to do this and to not waver.
Yes, I was brought up by two hippies, yes.
So the visualizing, all of that, they told you this. Now, you listen to this. She was doing makeup for weddings. Like, this is, a really important day, one would say. At 14 years old, she is doing a bride's makeup. So even the confidence to do that, Victoria,
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I was doing people's makeup I went to boarding school. So when I was about 12 years old, I decided that I wanted some extra money. And so I set up shop in the common room, and I started doing makeup for all of the father-daughter dances, proms, for all of the older girls. Hair too, by the way. I was definitely more talented in makeup. And then eventually I got the call that one of the older sisters of one of the girls who I did regularly wanted me to do her wedding. And I just thought it was completely normal. I was like, well, finally, I'm being recognized for all of my talents. And I packed up my caboodles and I walked across the street in Forest Hill and walked up to this gigantic house and knocked on the door. And at the time I was charging $20 to do your hair and your makeup. We didn't talk about money. And this lovely mother ended up paying me $200. And I thought, oh my goodness, you put an extra zero on there. And ran out the door. I was like, I think I need to do more weddings. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was everything that's come to me has felt like it's all just a part of the process of the journey. And I'm always very grateful, but I try not to lose myself in the gratefulness, because sometimes I find if you're just like giving that away too much, like it's all just there for you already. So you just it's your life and you just go for it.
Well, I think that's really remarkable to know that. And so at 14, you charge 20, you receive 200. Let's talk a little bit about money and what it was like to receive money for something that you love. Did that always feel okay for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Who is this unicorn? Because,
I mean, we can talk about my challenges. There's lots.
Well, but I love
but that wasn't a challenge.
That wasn't a challenge. No. How many of you have felt a challenge when it comes to receiving money? So look.
I'm aware. I try and talk about it a lot. Money comes to me. I put myself out there with the things that I want to achieve, and it flows very easily. And it's just something that I've always believed is true. And I've also kind of taken things like, as I've gotten older, anything that doesn't flow, it feels to me like I need to realign where I'm going. I do this a lot because it's always felt like there's a path. And my only job is to be honest about the way that I feel and to continue on that path and see what life has in store for me. Because trust me, it's a wild ride.
And so you were saying about the flow. So it's interesting what your beliefs about money are, because for many people, that's a belief they want to come to. It's not a belief that they inherently have. So for you, when it comes to the flow, when was the last time in your business you felt you had to pivot because there was a block in the flow?
Yesterday, every day.
Really? Yeah. What happened yesterday? We'll start there.
So I really love collaborating. I don't like being a dictator. I never have. I surround myself with really inspiring people that inspire me and I feel like make my path better. I believe that anything that I do on my own isn't as great as connecting with someone else and then creating something totally new. So what that does is it opens myself up to learning some pretty hard lessons of working with people that are just the wrong people to work with. They're very necessary lessons and have really helped me along the way to understand what types of people that I would like to have around me. But as my company has grown, it's attracted more and more people. And the interesting thing that, we're talking about money, for me, it really isn't about the money. I'm like really not focused. That's not my part of the business. My business partner was an investment banker and in finance before. So that's kind of her part of the business. I just know it's like going to happen, but it's never been something that I'm focused on. But more and more people as of late are attracted to kind of the opportunity and the margins, and you hear those like buzzwords as your company grows. I just love products. I didn't realize that they had great margins, and so so that's what I'm working on now. Yesterday, I am realizing that it's important for me to be very honest about the right types of people that I have around me. And you always can modify and evolve your situation. And I'm in the process of evolving my team.
It's interesting once you start to add humans to the mix.
Yes.
Right? Like the makeup is the easy part when you start to have that. So let's talk a little bit about leadership, because you went from, doing this one-on-one on your own, and then you traveled with Fergie of Black Eyed Peas. You were her makeup artist for 4 years. So when did you start to build a team?
After traveling with Fergie. Before that, I worked with people, but not me being hired to bring people with me. That happened afterwards. And I got really inspired while I was traveling with Fergie. I felt like I'd never experienced a group of creatives together that were really coming together and making the whole look, like Fergie's whole experience, even better, because we were really like working together, helping each other. Before that, I had worked in a more cutthroat kind of, it felt cutthroat environment where it felt like people were more competitive. And it was interesting to me that it felt like at the top, people aren't like that. And so I felt like that was like a little bit of a secret that I could take back. And now I'm going to be more collaborative, and that will bring and elevate my business as it continues to grow. And that I don't believe in competition that's just so small time and linear. Like creative people are, there's so much movement that there's no such thing as competition really. And so that was something that I felt like as we started working with people that I needed to find other people that also believed that, or I needed to find people and then show them that that is true, which is maybe easier than finding people that also believe that.
In fact, when you would share the talents of your people,
Yes.
and you would share it publicly and you would acknowledge people, you were actually told, don't do that. Don't acknowledge your team the way you're acknowledging them. Can you share a bit about that?
Absolutely. When I first came on the scene in Toronto, I was quite new to, I'd been traveling, so I was gone for 4 years. And there were a few very amazing established companies here that wanted to kind of welcome me, but also talk to me about the way that I was behaving, which was very different. I started a social media account, obviously, and would tag my staff with their own social media accounts. And that was like really upsetting to a lot of other companies. Now it's the norm. But back then, companies were very scared that if you did that, then that person would leave and then take all their clients with you, which, by the way, is a very big part of our industry. Like I did it myself. And I celebrate when people decide they want to start their own business. It's really not easy to do. And the least I could do is give them a good celebratory, like, good luck. I'm here if you need me. People aren't belongings. They're people, and they deserve to, if they devote their experience and their life and their knowledge to your business for a certain amount of time, they deserve at least that they're celebrated when they choose to go out on their own or whatever they choose to do in their life. So I felt like that was a real flawed element of our industry. And it's easy to change it if you just decide to be different.
Well, but when you have people at that stage that are people that you admire and look up to,
Very
and they've
much so.
been in the industry for so long, and they're saying, you know what, you don't want to do that. How did you hear that?
I said, you're just scared. That's small time. You don't have to be scared. If you're big, you just go. I used to say to people, I could give someone the keys to my castle, but they're not me. And I am me. That is my superpower. And I'm just going to keep on going with what I believe.
There was a study that was done recently, and they were measuring the vibrations, and it's always thought that love was of the highest frequency, but it isn't. It's authenticity. And I think that's what you're speaking to. And so we're authentic when we speak our truth. And that is the key to freedom, is speaking your truth and being you, because nobody else can be that. And then, as we talk about in my community, it's that your doing comes from who you're being. Always it starts with who you're being. So when you saw the people in at the concerts and that are organizing the concerts and the team around Fergie, and you noticed that the people at the top you said that like they were different. What did you notice about them, about how they operated?
They behave as if we have already made it, because we have, but in a way that is, they like give it all away. It's
Really?
like, yes. Yes, I remember my first day. It was in Belgium, and I had never been on a stage of that magnitude. Transparently, I didn't even know the Black Eyed Peas were that popular. I was a little older. And I looked out on the stage, and there was like 100,000 people in that. I was like, "Wow, this is amazing!" And I turned to Jason, who is her hairstylist. He still works with her, the most lovely human. And I said, "So do we get to watch the show?" And he was like, "Oh, honey," he's like, "Come with me. We're on the stage in the quick change room." And so he basically just, no one was really showing me what to do. So he took me around and he showed me everything and he gave me some tips, some like really helpful tips. He told me how much time I had. He told me what to say, what not to say, little things that you would never know. And I felt that from every angle, the dancers, the people on the sound stage, even like Fergie herself, like she was like, "Do you need anything?" I was like, "Do you need anything? I'm here for you." It just felt very collaborative and very much like people were pouring their heart and their soul into what they were doing, and everyone was very grateful to be there.
So what I hear you saying is that what you noticed was there was no ego, in the sense of people like Fergie asking, "Do you need something?" She wasn't above you.
Yeah.
She just had a different role, and everybody had their roles. And then Jason, who was willing to help you. So he was invested in you succeeding, which is why he's giving you those tips.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
he wants you to do well.
Absolutely.
And so I'm sure there are some ego in that kind of environment, but it sounds like at the top with the collaboration,
Yes.
there's got to be a lack of ego in order to be able to collaborate.
Yeah. Though I would say that there's absolutely no fear
And no fear.
that somebody is going to be better than you or that somebody is going to outshine you.
Yeah.
That's definitely at the core of what the feeling of the team was.
So just imagine if you left here today and you didn't have fear, what would you do? What would be that email that you would send? What would be the conversation that you would have? What would be that project you would launch? Who would you ask to partner with you? It's a powerful thing to operate without that.
Absolutely. It's my life's motto, actually. Strong and wrong. You just go
Tell
for
us
it.
about it. Tell us about strong and wrong. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. It's unintentionally been my motto my entire life. I come from two hippies, but they're actually quite perfect people. Both my parents are very polished and receive a lot of accolades for pretty much anything they do. I was the exact opposite as a child. I was clumsy, I was loud, I got really bad grades in school, really bad. I had lots of friends, but other than that, I very much was the opposite of my parents and felt very much like I didn't belong in the family or in school. And as I got older, and I was told a lot of the time that I was bad. I was told a lot of the time that I didn't pay attention. I was, the classic, she has so much potential, but she's wasting it away, all those things. And that was frustrating for me. I felt like I wanted to reach my potential. I just didn't understand. I felt like the things that they were trying to teach me didn't work for me. That's really how it felt. And so as I got older, I started realizing that my gifts were very different. For instance, I have been dreaming about creating products since I was 12 years old. I read a book back to front written by Horst, who started Aveda. And basically this book was like how to start a business and how to lead your life from this like soul level and having products that are good for the environment and good for your face. And I read it until the book fell apart. And then I decided to go to my payphone of my school and call the 1-800 number on the back of the book because I needed more information. And so I was like, "Hello, My name is Victoria Radford, and I'm in OAC. I was in grade 9. I thought that gave me more clout. I was like, I am in OAC, and I would like to do a presentation on Aveda, and I was looking for more literature. So I was like, if you have any more books, and thank goodness whoever I was speaking to sent me to kind of the marketing and PR department, and this lovely woman sent me a humongous package, and the package had products, a VHS, another book, and I felt like I'd won the lottery.
That was like your first PR pack.
Yes,
Right.
it was.
Right.
It
right.
was, yes. And it was astounding to me that my friends thought it was so incredible that I was able to pull this off. And to me, it was kind of like, well, why not? Just put yourself out there. Just go for it. You never know. Like, you can call. They could have said, like, okay, have a nice day. Like, this is not a phone number you should ever call again. But they didn't. They sent me this huge package instead, and it kind of changed my life forever. There were a few things that happened like that. So by the time I was one of the youngest company members in the Stratford Festival, I also really enjoyed acting at the time. And that was a whole other story of how I got there. We were on the stage, and the director turned to everyone. I was about 17 years old. And she said, okay, everyone, strong and wrong. Do it like you mean it, and it's okay if you screw up. And I turned around, and it hit me. I was like, oh my goodness, strong and wrong. That's what I've been doing my whole life. Like, it really works. I wanted to turn to all the other actors and be like, guys, you should just go for it. Strong and wrong works. And so that's been my motto ever since.
I love that. That might be the title of the podcast for this episode, Strong and Wrong. Stay tuned. We'll see if that's what it is. But, you know, there's permission then, like, just go for it.
Exactly.
Right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? I love how much you love the science behind all of this. So are you like in the lab, in a lab coat with the like shower cap type hat thing?
I
in there?
wish.
Are you in there?
I wish. I have been to my labs many times. Labs are very closed in. Like, it's very special every time I'm invited. Anytime I see another creator do in their lab mixing stuff, I'm always like, oh, it's so posturing. Like, that's not really a thing.
It isn't?
No.
Oh, I thought you were. I
Unfortunately.
thought it was like, I'm going to the
Yeah.
lab today.
I wish.
And I thought you had a coat
Yeah.
and your name on it.
When you go in the lab, they do give you a coat. You go through a very rigorous
Yeah.
process of making you all desanitized. You have like boots and a hairnet and like things on your hands, and there's like lines that you can't cross when you're walking. It's very serious. I love every moment I can to go. And my favorite place in the entire world is the place that creates my products. They have a room where it's all the products they've ever created. And I love especially taking my staff there for the first time, because you see like Fenty Beauty and Marc Jacobs.
Really?
And yeah, like
Radford.
anything. Yes. And then our Radford little shelf. But anything that you can imagine, they create. They're the big boys. They do all of the biggest products in the world. And so sitting in that room and getting that presentation and kind of nerding out over the ingredients and asking about adding different ingredients to something. And I was there recently, and they gave me this mask, and my producer was saying, I thought you'd like it. And I put it on and I smelt it, and I was like, it reminds me of like Body Shop 1992. And she's like, that is the lab that created Body Shop in 1992. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I get a real kick out of that, because I feel like this has been my dream my entire life, and it's so incredible to be doing it. I really put in my 10,000 hours even
Yeah.
as a 12-year-old, and now I get to continue to create things.
Oh my gosh, like she's literally sparkly when she talks about it, right? Like you can feel it. You can feel the energy around it. Now, we have here your beautiful product, but I know this was not the first iteration.
No.
Tell it, because you know there are people that are listening that are starting out, or they're putting something out there for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about some of your early iterations of your product. What did it look like?
I've always been the type of person that learns by doing. Unfortunately, when you are that type of person, usually the first time you do anything, it's almost painful how much you hate it. And I knew that was going to be the case when I first started creating products. And I said to myself, this is going to be ugly or bad. I knew that the actual product inside was going to be perfect. That's something that I've always had I'd been doing it for so long that by the time I got that out there, but I didn't know how to make it look expensive. I wanted it to look like Tom Ford created a weird hippie natural product line. And so the first time I had it sent to me, I had one of my girlfriends over who happened to be in PR, and she opened it up and they looked terrible. Like, I really want to show you a photo. Like, really, they looked like homemade tiny little samples. And she said to me, "Oh, are these samples? Can I have them?" And on my feet, I was like, "Well, they're prototypes. The packaging's not final, but the inside is great. And yes, you can have them." And I had to sell through like 1,000 of these little ugly ducklings, but I did. It took a little while, and I knew that the next iteration, I was like, I can't do this with, like, I need to find out where does Tom Ford make their products. And so I started Googling, and I was like, lots of stuff came up about Italy. And so I decided to go to Italy and showed up at this amazing conference called Cosmoprof. And if anyone wants to create any products, you have to go to Bologna, you have to go to Cosmoprof. That's where all the big boys create all of the products from. It's very expensive. It's complicated to go. You have to send in incorporation papers. But I'm one of those people that the more complicated it is, the more I'm like, oh, I'm in the right place.
Why is that? What is it about it that lights you up?
It feels like there's a barrier to entry, and I want to know what's on the other side of the velvet rope. And so,
Right. So you're not intimidated by it. You're excited about it.
very much so.
Okay.
Yes.
Because sometimes, it is a barrier because people will stop at the application process, right? They're going to be like, wow, this is a lot, because you have to send in a lot of documentation.
Yeah, it was complicated.
And then they have to decide whether you can come or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when I showed up, I was thrilled. First of all, I was the only girl there. It's changed now. This is like 12 years ago. Thank goodness. More people need to go to Cosmoprof. Yeah. And so I look around, and it's all these like men in suits, and I'm like head to toe in Pucci because I'm in Italy. And I'm walking around, and there's these like kind of very unfriendly people sitting like almost like barriers. And I walked up to the first woman, and I said, "Hello, my name is Victoria Radford, and I'm going to make my own product line," which was the exact wrong thing to say. She was like, "Immediately no. Like, just please." Yes, I'm highly annoying to a lot of people. The more successful I get, the more people are like tolerate me. But back then, especially before I'd done anything, people were like, "Oh God." And so I walk up, I say this to the woman, and she's like, "Please go away." And so I did, because obviously she wasn't letting me in. And it was this gentleman walking around. He had like an entire bottle of champagne, and he walks up to me, and he's kind of like drinking it himself. And he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Hello, I'm Victoria Radford, and I'm going to make my own product line." And he's like, "Hello, I'm Alberto, and I own a makeup manufacturing company. Would you like an appointment?" And I was like, "An appointment? Yes." And so he took me past the very unfriendly person and into his manufacturing.
Champagne.
With champagne.
Like, talk about that.
Yes.
Like, you went
Yes.
with champagne.
Yes, and the owner. Yes. I had my 20-minute presentation of products from the future, like one at a time. And of course, I was sitting there like, this is unbelievable. They're like, "And this one changes when you put it on." I'd never seen any of it.
So he's showing you his product.
Yes. Yes, and he manufactured for like La Prairie, like very high-end, only creams. They specialize in creams. It was really wonderful. I look forward, someday I want to do something with him just to thank him, because it was so amazing, but mostly makeup stuff. And so by the end of the appointment, I kind of walked out, and I walked to the next very unfriendly woman, and I walked out to her, and I said, "Hello, I would like to book an appointment." She like looked at me, and she's like, "Are you available tomorrow at 4? I was like, "Let me just check my, yes. See you tomorrow at 4. Yes.
Wow. So and that is something that I remember you speaking about this, and you had to save every nickel and dime to get there. right?
Yeah, I was so proud of myself.
So share that.
Yeah, I saved up when I got the job with Fergie. It felt like this was going to be the way I started my product line. Like I actually had never really thought, oh, I'd like to work with a celebrity. And the concept of a celebrity makeup artist, it's actually quite new. That was not a thing when I first started working for her. And so when I got the job, I was like, this is how I afford because I didn't have any money. I was like, I want to make my own product line, but I don't know how. And so I saved every single penny. I thought I had so much money and I had enough money for like 1, maybe 2 products. And I was like, I'd like to make 14 products. It's going to be really simple. And I spent every single penny on those 2 products and I was so proud of myself. I did call my best friend who's my business partner. I was like, I think we're going to need a bigger boat. Like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to have to sell a lot of product really fast so that I can make more products.
So you mentioned your best friend, business partner. Is this person still your business partner?
Yes.
How has that been?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I love it. It's interesting because so many people are, especially when I first started telling people that I was going to make Laura my business partner, they're like, "Oh no, you can't work with friends." I only work with friends. Like all of my best friends are in my business. So I don't really know why you would say that you can't work with friends. I would say that when you work with people, it highlights things. So all of your very challenging things are highlighted. All of your very good things are highlighted. So you have to be willing to parallel process the development of your relationship with that person at the same time as the development of of your business. But you have to do that anyway, even if people aren't your friends.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Parallel process. I had never heard that before. I love that. You've got a parallel process because these different relationships, and you're both growing. If you started this from the ground up, you both don't know
Exactly.
what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so what was a challenge? What was it ever challenging? And is there
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And what do you think helped you to move through those challenges?
So interestingly enough, I think the fact that I love her so much really helped because when things felt tough or uncomfortable, my feelings for her made me decide that I wanted to spend energy and invest time in figuring out how I could make it better and how we could grow and be better partners for one another. And just like, it's similar to a marriage. Like you do this thing and then you change as people. I turned 44 in a few months. I've known her since we were 6 years old. We're completely different people and continue to be so. But really encourage each other to be honest about that one. That one's sometimes hard because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but it's too important not to. So you got to kind of get over that and figure out different ways. We've done a whole bunch of different activities. We've even been to therapy together just because, you're kind of like, what else can we do to be able to connect in different ways outside of the business? So that never ends. That never stops.
Well, definitely when you love somebody, you're going to try all of the things that you need to do to make the relationship better.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have questions for Victoria as well? Do a few of you have questions? Raise your hand if you've got questions, because I'm going to ask one more here and then we'll go to you. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions. So as you gather your thoughts, I want to ask you, Victoria, so I have actually 2 questions. What is the part of the business that you love, that you lose time in?
Definitely collaborating with people.
Really?
Yes. I have lots of ideas. Sometimes it's hard for the people that I work with, how many ideas I have. 1 week I'm thinking of a new product. The next week I'm like, I think we should buy a castle in Italy. stay with me, because that's where we can do all of our weddings, brand trips. This is a serious idea.
Yes, this is do we think this is a good idea? This is a very good idea.
It could turn
Retreats?
into yes, exactly.
Okay.
Retreats. It could turn, I also, by the way, call my other entrepreneurial friends. I'm like, guys, we should do this together. It will cost €1 million, but if there's 5 of us, that's very manageable. My father can my father's an interior designer. He's incredible. He can redo the whole thing for us. And so I have a lot of wacky ideas, and it helps me to, when you're in kind of like the minutia and like you're grinding it, for me, it helps me to think like that, to dream, because it helps me keep going. Because the only way I'm going to get my castle in Italy is if I'm willing to sweep the floors on a Monday. You got to do that. And so that, for me, when I get together with other people and we get to dream together and build together, that's definitely my favorite part.
Okay, that's another one to write down. The only way I'm going to get my castle in Italy is if I sweep the floors on Monday. Right. Yeah. I love that. One more question. What does beauty mean to you?
Oh, that's such a loaded question. I'm so happy you asked that to me. So I did not want the word beauty anywhere near my business. Just Radford is not available. And other people, I also don't like the word makeup. I don't know. I feel like words have vibrations, and I just didn't align with, I don't align with anything mainstream. Like, really, I don't. And so it's, my biggest challenge has been, how do I take what I believe? So what I believe is that the dish will never be better than the ingredients. And so many people, person after person after person, they come to me for facials, they come to me for makeup, and the first thing they tell me is, I want to change this and this and this about myself. And so I have 1 hour to somehow inspire that person that they are already perfect, that the dish will never be better than the ingredients. Your own ingredients, seasoned just right and brought out, is the whole, in my opinion, like the whole goal to life is becoming you, right? And so how do I put that into everything that I do? And I believe that the word beauty stops that somehow. I don't know. It's a daily thing that I would like to figure out, and I feel like there's a lot of things on the table that I pose to people, like that I get to work with, where we get to talk about that, and like, can we change that word? What other words can we use? Because sometimes I can get really obscure and a little too out there. So taking it kind of one step at a time and having it always evolve in the direction of authenticity, because it looks a lot different. My business looks a lot different now than it did when I first started 10 years ago. But what's it going to look like in another 10 years while we're all in Italy?
Yeah, at the castle. Well, to be continued, clearly. Okay, I think we've got time for 2 questions. Okay, Mario will... Okay, so... Mario is pointing to somebody at the back there. Yeah, you come on. Oh, if you could come over here to the microphone. Thank you so much. And then we'll have Catherine, and then we'll wrap.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What's your name?
My name is Kat, and I love your energy. You're just giving me like golden retriever right now, and it's so precious. So I just have a quick question going back to what you were talking about, like working with friends. I didn't fully understand what you said about parallel processing. Can you go into that in more detail and maybe give like a practical example of like how that showed up in your relationship with your partner in business and with your friendship?
Absolutely. When you have a friendship with someone that you've kind of nurtured and it's grown into something, that's one thing. Then when you start a business with them, you have this new thing that you're developing. And sometimes when I think of like parallel processing, it's like you've now created 2 different relationships. And sometimes when you're building a business with that person, it's important to continue to evolve your personal relationship with them at the same time, especially when there's challenges. So if something happens in the business that we disagree with, for instance, I would say we're very opposite people. That's the other thing. I like working with people that are the opposite of me. That's not hard to do because not a lot of people are like me. But I like working with like extremely conventional, like I like to see what's on the other side so that we can kind of create this completely new thing, right? So Laura and I are very different people and we disagree on things often. So how do we communicate on the things that we disagree about and come to a resolution, and then at the same time continue to make sure that our friendship is getting the attention that it needs and that we're communicating in a way that honors this other amazing thing that we spent so much time building, and because they're happening at the same time, they're parallel processing.
Thank you.
Excellent.
welcome.
Thank you. I love that question. Catherine.
So I have so much to thank you for. You just literally set the whole context for my business and personal relationship with my husband, like took it to another level in one conversation. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
And, but that's not what I wanted to ask you about, but thank you. Like that was gold right there. So, and one thing I also wanted to say, 3 access points to eternal through truth, beauty, and goodness. And you have shown us that through beauty. So I appreciate you. My question is really around that leap from small stage to world stage. And it's clear that you saw that leap. That wasn't accidental. And please tell me more about like that kind of process or what you've learned about making that big leap.
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that question.
I know.
So to me, there is no leap. It's all a scam. And so many times in my life, calling a payphone at 14, like I have no business calling that number. But really, we all have the ability and the business to be and do literally whatever you want with your life. And there's no leap, you already are.
Yeah. Again, another one to write down. There is no leap, you already are. Well, aren't we thrilled of who Victoria is, how she shows up, and who you are being? Victoria, I've loved this conversation. I would love to have it again.
Me too.
Because I think that your approach, isn't it incredible to hear? And so, you give, as you do you give other people permission to do themselves.
Yeah,
And
that's
to
the magic.
speak their truth. And that is the magic. And you've been magic. Thank you so much. Let's give Victoria a warm thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You. Well, if you loved that episode, you know what to do. Download, rate, review, like, and most importantly, share. If somebody came to mind when you were listening to this, share it with them. And I'll see you here next time.